Bangladesh's border guards crossing into India to halt the construction of a mandir after ethnic cleansing, no less, is deeply troubling. Why does India tolerate such actions, despite the fact that it's well known that the US may be behind these provocations? Is the Biden administration trying to stir things up before handing over to Trump? And if that's the case, how much should India tolerate? It's hard to believe that we still live in a truly sovereign nation with these challenges. Okay, so what's happening in Bangladesh right now? We know there's been a regime change. Old news now. Hasina gone, and Mohammed Yunus, this puppet guy, has been put in place, and he's the face of the government, which is being run by a bunch of well forces that are very strongly inimical to India and very friendly with Pakistan. So, like I've said ton of times, Bangladesh is now East Pakistan, and they are provoking India in a variety of ways. The most recent provocation was Bangladeshi border guards crossing over into Indian territory and halting the construction of a temple, a Hindu mandir, because it's somehow offensive to them. Well, mind your own business, stay in your territory. But yeah, they crossed over and halted the construction of a temple, right? And obviously, it's such a long border, a very open, porous border that we have with Bangladesh, with East Pakistan, that you can't have the BSF and the army, etc., everywhere at every point in the border. So these sort of things, well, they can do it. So what should India do? And are we completely important? Are we a non-sovereign nation? And what exactly is happening? And a lot of people are saying that India should think about military action. Go ahead and do military action and save the Hindus. There's a Hindu genocide happening in Bangladesh. Lots of Hindus have been killed, lot of atrocities and whatnot, and the media won't report that. Yeah, so all that is happening. So what should India do? Should India go ahead and take military action? How long will we tolerate this? That's the question on everyone's mind. So understand this. uh, Bangladesh, as you all understand very well, they are now a proxy of the US. Okay, they are a proxy of the US, and they are trying their best to provoke us. The provocations by Bangladesh, the objective is to instigate the Indian public against the government of India. And by doing this, by instigating the public and making the Indian citizenry extremely angry, this it's going to put a lot of pressure on the government of India. Right? Everyone's frustrated, everyone's tired, everyone's angry. So the objective, the hope that they have, the Bangladeshis, okay, the proxies of the US, the hope that they have is that this will pressurize the government of India enough to force some kind of military action. Now, understand this. We've taken military action in the past, 1971. But when we liberated East Pakistan and converted it to Bangladesh after military action, after a war, that war took 8 to 9 months of very intense and deliberate planning, preparation. The Indian army in the 71 avoided the monsoon. See, Bangladesh is a very defensible country. Let's take a look at them. Okay, let's not look at the map. You can look at it in your own free time. Bangladesh is a very defensible country geographically. It has lots of marshes, it has lots of rivers. Some rivers are miles wide. It's not a piece of cake to just walk into the country and take it. Of course it's possible. It's not like they've got some very powerful army or anything, but it's a very defensible country. In the When the Americans invaded Vietnam, they thought it would be a walkover, and it was a disaster for them. The US military is incredibly, even at that time, was incredibly more powerful than the Vietnamese military, and yet the Vietnamese were able to defeat the Americans. So that's what we have to understand. If you want to take military action, it's going to take months of preparation and planning, and you're going to have to do it in a very specific manner, and they'll be aware of this, right? So and while we were planning the war during those 8 or 9 months in 1971, about 3 million Hindus were killed in Bangladesh, right? And now this action that we took, the military action, it succeeded. To a certain extent, it succeeded because we had help from the people of Bangladesh. They were tired of the atrocities that the Pakistanis were committing. So We had internal help from Bangladesh, from the Bangladeshis, and we obviously armed them. The Mukti Bahini, we created the Mukti Bahini, we trained the Mukti Bahini, we armed them. They acted as a resistance against the Pakistanis, and that obviously had a certain small amount of impact on the war, right? And in 71, we our army bypassed all the cities, all the towns, all the centers of resistance. We bypassed it all. Bypassed all those centers. If we do it again, the question is, what's going to happen to all the Hindus who are living there? Hmm? What's going to happen if we bypass the cities and we go straight for Dhaka? What will happen in the cities to the Hindus and in the towns and the villages? We don't think about that, right? So the thing is, we in India, we watch Hollywood movies, and we think we can behave like the Americans behave in those movies. The real world doesn't work that way. We can certainly flatten a nation like the US if we want to. I mean, but do we want to do that to Bangladesh? Of course not. That's not how we operate. That's not how civilized people operate. Right? So you do that, there's going to be a slaughter in Bangladesh. And then the West, they are waiting for this. They're waiting for India to make a mistake. That's why they have dislodged Hasina, evicted her, and replaced her with Mr. Mohammed Yunus. Their hope is that they can push India into a conflict. And then that will give them the justification to destroy India economically. Okay, India's economy is a growing economy, it's a rising economy. And it's a long term problem for the Americans because they don't want any new rising economies, any new big nations, any new big economies, powerful nations. So they are waiting for the chance that gives them the justification to destroy India's economy. They are waiting for this to happen. And that's why the Bangladeshis are provoking us. Bangladesh is a proxy. Just like Ukraine is a proxy in America's war against Russia, similarly, Bangladesh is a proxy. And they want to use Bangladesh against India the same way they are using Ukraine against Russia. Okay? So so if we do something silly like military action or something, it will be hell for India. And in 1971, the Americans obviously they denied that there was any genocide happening in East Pakistan. They denied that there was anything being done against the Hindus, atrocities or genocide or murders or massacres. They kept on denying it, even though they knew what was happening. And they are doing the same thing right now. Their media is reporting nothing of what's happening in East Pakistan. So they will say that nothing is happening and India attacked peaceful, helpless Bangladesh. Hindu nationalist India attacked peaceful, helpless Bangladesh. That's what they will say. And then they will throw a ton of sanctions on India and that will destroy the Indian economy. That is the objective. All right. So we in 71 decided that Bangladesh will be a separate nation. We had conquered it. We were in Dhaka. We had taken control of the entire nation, but we chose to make it to give it its independence. We could have reabsorbed East Bengal at the time. It has always been our territory. We chose to keep it separate and to give it independence. Well, now we have to deal with the consequences of that action. Today, Bangladesh is a separate nation, theoretically a sovereign nation, practically a US vassal, a US puppet, and it's a proxy that they're using against India. So we are surrounded by two nations, East Pakistan, West Pakistan. And they want us to make a mistake. So my point is, sit back, relax, stop getting. I know it's obviously painful to see what's being done to the Hindus, but at this point in time, uh, we cannot take any overt action. We can take covert action possibly, which I will not go into. That's up to the government. We are a sovereign nation. We very much are a sovereign nation. What's happening is happening outside our territory. So at this point in time, we have to swallow the anger, swallow the pain, and not give the Americans the justification or the pretext to do what they really are itching to do, to damage India's economy. So these provocations will happen. I think the provocations could escalate. We could take some action, localized action against its provocations to tell them that certain red lines cannot be crossed, the Bangladeshis, but that's about it. And even that, even if we take action against the Bangladesh border guards or something, kill a few of those because it entered our territory, it's going to be an international incident, and the West will condemn India. So that is the position we are in. This At this point in time, the situation calls for calm, for patience, for restraint. Bide your time. India has to bide its time. We're going to have a lot of this in the next 10, 20 years. We have to find a way to navigate the world the next 10, 20 years. There's going to be increasing pressure upon us. And Bangladesh is one of those focal points of the pressure. So that's the situation in Bangladesh vis-a-vis us. And this is what we have to do. So there we are.